Okay, imagine there's a palace. If we say that things outside the palace, like the clouds, the weather, rain, lightning, the sun, earthquakes, floods, if we say those things built it, that's attributing it to external causes, like a meteor fell or something, and poof, a palace. That's the first category, which the argument deals with right away. He basically refutes that in the first section. Then you have the things inside the palace, its stones, its bricks. What's the smallest building block of the palace? Let's say it's the stones. If you say the stones themselves built it, that falls into the category of it creating itself. So if we think about the palace's fundamental components, the iron, the cement, the bricks, the stones, and say they built the building, that's the it made itself argument. Now for the third part, the nature argument. In this scenario, the guy is wandering through the palace and he finds a notebook. It could be anywhere, by a door, a window, it doesn't matter. He finds a notebook inside the palace, a blueprint basically. He looks at this blueprint and says, aha, this is what built the palace. It's like DNA. Yes, it could be like DNA, but this is a more comprehensive idea. It's like finding the master plan. The notebook contains the palace's entire organizational program, a complete list of all its contents, and the laws that govern it. So the guy looks at this book and sees the whole construction plan. How was this palace built? First the foundation was laid, then the rebar was set, the molds were put up, and so on. It's the whole construction program. If we apply this to a human being, how is a person formed in the womb? Through meiosis, mitosis, and all that. There's a fixed, unchanging program that God applies. It's not like one person is made one way and another a different way. The program is the same for every human. Think about how houses are built today. If they're all built in the same style, there's a system. Lay the foundation, set the rebar, pour the concrete. That system is the organizational program. A builder who learns that program can build the house. Or think about the universe. How was it created? The stages of its creation are its organizational program. And this guy in the story, he sees that the same program is being applied to every living thing. He spots the pattern, the similarity, and says, I've got it. There's a fixed, unchanging program. But the problem is, he says the program itself did the building. The program is just a plan. It has no form, no hands, no eyes. It can't do anything. Look, you found the program, congratulations. You discovered meiosis and mitosis and protein synthesis, great. But what you found is the method. The builder used to do the work. You haven't found the builder himself. But this guy is desperate to find something. So he latches onto this. In the first stage, he thought it was the environment, but that was debunked. In the second stage, he thought it was the atoms themselves, and that was debunked. Now he's found the construction plan, the list of contents, and the operating laws. He's found the technique. The operating laws are about how life continues after the thing is built. How does the heart beat? How do the intestines work? Or how does spring arrive? How does the earth turn? He discovers the principles behind its rotation. So he finds the blueprint, the parts list, and the operating manual. For example, the parts list for a human would be: a person is made of these things, a cell is made of these things, a tree has these components. He finds the index of what makes up every existing thing. And what does he do? He writes all this down in books. He presents it as science. Then when you ask, how is a person made? He says, look, it happens through meiosis and mitosis. Okay, but meiosis and mitosis aren't the builder. They're not the agent. I'm asking you for the builder, and you're showing me the builder's program. You're not showing me the builder at all. So what's happening? The guy says, Well, I don't accept that there's a builder, so I have to say something. Attributing it to atoms is too simplistic now. We're past that. This is the most suitable explanation I can find. But he's making the mistake right from the very beginning. His foolishness and ignorance lead him to decide from the outset that no one from the outside could have interfered, so one of the things inside. The palace must have built it and everything in it. That's how he starts his search. Imagine a palace built in an empty desert, equipped and decorated with all the marvels of civilization. And this isn't just a building with walls and doors. It has everything. What do the most advanced buildings have today? Heating systems, cooling systems, security cameras, elevators. It has it all. Nothing is missing. Moving walkways, hot and cold running water, ventilation, automated lighting. It's fully furnished with everything you'd need. And it's not just functional, it's beautifully decorated. The walls aren't plain like ours. They have intricate carvings, moving pictures, detailed motifs, like an Ottoman palace where every surface is a work of art. So you have this magnificent palace standing alone in a vast empty desert. Like our world, a palace in the vast emptiness of space. It really stands out. Now a savage man enters. The emptiness around it should break his sense of normalcy. It's like walking into a huge empty field and seeing a single magnificent tree in the middle. It immediately grabs your attention. You start to contemplate it. When it says savage, it means someone who doesn't know how to think, how to reason, how to contemplate. The opposite of savage is civilized, someone who lives in a city. A city person knows the rules. They stop at a red light. They know how to live with others. But someone from the mountains, a Bedouin for example, doesn't know any of the rules and just acts randomly, causing chaos. This man in the story doesn't know how to think. He sees a palace and doesn't realize it must have a builder. He's that ignorant. He's never seen or thought about something like this before. What should his immediate thought be? To build a palace this perfect, there must be a master builder who is even more perfect, who has all the skills and attributes necessary to make it. But instead, this savage man, who represents the disbelievers, walks in and looks around. When a person looks at the universe or another human being, they should immediately recognize the existence of God, the Maker, but instead they say the air did it, the water did it, the atoms did it, the DNA did it. They're just like this savage man. They don't know how to reason. The RİSALE-İ teaches us how to think. It teaches us what a work of art is and what is required for a work of art to exist. For example, look at this book. How could it come into being? Could pages have just flown around randomly, glue splashed on them, and they stuck together? No. If a work of art exists, logic and reason demand an artist. If you look at a work and see wisdom and artistry, then its cause must have knowledge and consciousness. That's a critical point. You have to realize it's the product of a conscious mind. Think about man-made creations. How is a car made? It has, say, 15,000 parts. Can a piece of metal just turn itself into 15,000 different shapes, screws, body panels, whatever, and then assemble itself into a car? No way. Even if it happened in a cartoon, you'd still need someone to draw the cartoon. Even if it were just a painting, you'd need a painter. You can't say, oh, the wind blew and tossed some parts into the air, and they came together as a car. That's impossible. It can only happen in your imagination, and even then, someone has to do the imagining. If a work exists, you have to think about its cause in a way that makes sense. Imagine a piece of chalk started writing beautiful text, or drawing a perfect picture on a blackboard all by itself. How is it moving? It's moving in a way that creates a specific drawing or forms letters. To do that, the chalk would have to know the letters, know the meaning behind the words. So, who knows that meaning? That's the master. Can the chalk know it? No. Can the wind know it? No. It has to be a conscious hand guiding it. We see the exact same thing with atoms. Atoms don't just write a sentence, they form a human being. They don't just draw a picture of a person, they come together to create an actual person, which is infinitely more complex than a drawing. So how do these atoms perform such orderly and wise movements? Do they know what they're doing? Either the atom itself knows, or something that guides it knows. All doors lead to this. There is a conscious intervention, which means there must be a conscious being. So he looks at all the amazingly crafted objects in the palace, and out of his sheer foolishness, he rules out any outside intervention. If you were an unbiased person, you'd say, okay, the builder could be from inside or outside. Let's consider all the possibilities. Why would you immediately close the door on one possibility? Why rule out an external creator from the start? Because they say, if we do that, it leads to religion. So what? Whether it's religion or something else, if that's where the thinking leads, so be it. Are we going to run away just because the path leads to God? Let's just think it through first. Why this prejudice from the beginning? He looks around at the doors, the stairs. He wonders if one of them made everything. But even his brutish mind can't accept that. So he's past the it made itself stage. Then he finds the notebook and what's written in it, the construction plan, the list of contents, and the governing laws. Logically, these are the three things you'd need to know: how it was made, what it's made of, and how it runs. Now, of course, this notebook has no hands, no eyes, no hammer. It has no ability to build or decorate the palace, just like everything else inside. Some scientists even admit this. The sincere ones say, we haven't found it yet. They use this very word, hammerless. They say, the things we've discovered are hammerless. They don't have the tools to actually do the work. They'll say, yes, this process happens, but how? What tool does it use? We haven't found that yet. I mean, how does a builder work? He needs hands, eyes, and tools like a hammer. If you have no hands, how can you say, I built this? How did you hold things, shape things? What if you tie a man's hands? Can he cook a meal? Now tie his hands and blindfold him? Now take away his tools. How is he supposed to build anything? This guy in the story realizes this. He says, I know this notebook is handless and eyeless and hammerless. It can't have built the palace. He's aware of that. He knows the construction plan he found is just a program. It's not a force, not a power. He knows the list of contents just describes what something is made of. Knowing or saying what a car is made of doesn't create a car. You can list all the parts. A car has wheels, an engine, doors, windows. Fine. But that list doesn't make the door. Saying it has wheels is not the same as the thing that makes the wheel. The description of a car in a science book can't build a car, can it? Okay, you figured out the system. But who implements the system? Without someone to implement it, your system and your program are useless. But his mind can't get there. So he puts forward these laws and hides behind them. He says, science has established these facts. Meiosis is a fact. Mitosis is a fact. My friend, without something that divides the cell, how is meiosis supposed to happen? A miracle is happening there, an incredible act of creation. You just gave the miracle a name, and by naming it, you think you've explained it away. What you've done is figured out God's method. You've uncovered the divine custom for how humans are created, but you haven't found the creator. You found the program the creator executes. And then you say, I found the program, so the program must be the one doing it. But a program isn't a builder. A program isn't a hammer. Get a grip. In physics right now, they say there's an attraction between a proton and an electron, but they admit they haven't found the carrier particles that transmit this force. They know a carrier is needed. They say there's a force, but the force has to be carried from one point to another. They haven't found how. They can't prove their theories. The truth is, force is a quality, not a substance. You can't just give force to matter. What they've found are the fixed divine laws. God doesn't change them. He creates every human the same way. That's what science discovers, the patterns that are the same in everyone. A scientist says, I've discovered how the heart works. And look, it's the same in every person. Then he attributes the heart's function to the pattern he discovered. But that pattern, that order, isn't the organizer. He finds something and he immediately calls it the builder. No, what you found is not the builder. You found the program. You still need to find the programmer. And this is the subtle point that the wild, brutish mind can't grasp. He can't see the difference between the program and the programmer. It's actually a simple distinction, but he can't get there. He just finds something and says, that's it, I'm done. Hold on, let's see what you've actually found. This person gets trapped, and because he's forced to find an explanation, and because he sees the notebook has a closer relationship to the whole palace than any other single object, he says, it must be this notebook that builds, organizes, and decorates the palace. And with that, his foolishness turns into the delirious ramblings of a drunkard. And this analogy applies perfectly to our world, which is infinitely more orderly and perfect than the palace in the story, a universe filled with miraculous wisdom. A savage man who holds the ideas of naturalism and denies God enters this palace of the universe. He refuses to consider that it's the work of a necessary being who is outside the realm of created things. He turns away from that idea from the start. I will not accept that, he says. Why do you turn away? He doesn't explain that. He just says, I'm going to explain this without God. He looks at the set of divine laws we call nature, which is really just a notebook where God's destiny writes and erases a list of God's artistry, and he says, well, these things need a cause, and nothing seems more related to them than this notebook of laws. Therefore, even though my mind can't accept that a blind, unconscious, powerless notebook could create anything, since I don't accept an eternal maker, the most suitable explanation is to say this notebook did it. And to him we say, oh, you drunken fool, you who have become more foolish than the biggest fool. That's the only way to describe someone who says this. And don't take that as an insult. It's the most fitting description. It's like finding a blueprint next to a building and saying the blueprint built the building. It's that absurd. In fact, it's even worse. Lift your head out of the swamp of nature and look behind you. Look at the source of the manifestation. From the smallest atom to the largest galaxy, all of creation bears witness with one voice to a glorious maker. See the hand of the eternal artist who both built the palace and wrote the program in that notebook. Listen to his decree, listen to the Quran, and save yourself from this nonsense.